You must have all heard a zillion conspiracy theories, be it the alien invasion or the Bermuda Triangle mystery. But did any such conspiracies come true? Number 10. MK Ultra. Let's start with one of the most shocking, MK Ultra. This was the CIA's secret plan to control minds. Back in the mid-20th century, a drug called LSD became popular among hippies who used it at music festivals to feel more connected to the world. Meanwhile, the CIA, who will be mentioned quite a bit in this discussion, was trying to turn this drug into a weapon. The idea of the CIA creating a secret mind control program might sound like something you'd hear in a psychiatric hospital, but it actually happened during a project called MK Ultra. Heroin addicts were tricked into taking LSD, and unsuspecting men were recruited at fake brothels. After that, they were subjected to experiments involving electric shocks and hypnosis. As far as we know, nothing useful came out of this project, but it did ruin the lives of many people involved. In 1977, when the Freedom Information Act revealed the details of this project, it gave Americans yet another reason to distrust the government during an already tough decade. Number 9. Gator. Believe it or not, in the 1960s, the Canadian government funded the creation of what can be only described as a real-life gator. While this might sound like a joke, it had serious and terrible consequences for the lives of about 400 people. Frank Robert Wake, a professor at Carleton University in Canada, created a machine that was supposed to measure people's reactions to image with homosexual content. This unscientific device was used on a large number of government employees. As a result, 400 of them were fired after being identified as gay. Adding insult to injury, the device was cruelly named the Fruit Machine, a term that played on a common homophobic slur of the time. Number 8. The North Korean mystery. There aren't many countries that have friendly ties with North Korea, but Japan had a particularly tense relationship with them. For a long time, there was a conspiracy theory that the North Korean government was secretly abducting Japanese citizens. And as you might have guessed, this theory turned out to be true. In 2002, the late Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il openly admitted that North Korea had kidnapped at least 13 Japanese citizens. To their credit, North Korea did return 5 of the kidnapped Japanese citizens. However, the whereabouts of the other 8 remain unknown. Number 7. The assassination of President Abraham Lincoln by John Wilkes Booth. We often hear about Booth as if he acted alone, a disturbing, racist, and out-of-work actor who risked everything to kill President Lincoln. As expected, there were conspiracies suggesting that John Wilkes didn't act alone, and those conspiracies turned out to be true. John Wilkes was part of a group of at least 9 Confederate co-conspirators, many of whom were also planning assassinations. Among them was George S. Rodet, who tried and failed to kill Vice President Andrew Johnson, and Lewis Powell, who also failed in his attempt to assassinate Secretary of State William Seward. Then there was Mary Surratt, who became the first woman to be executed by the United States government. Number 6. Dalai Lama. You might have probably heard some conspiracy theories about the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet. Because Dalai Lama opposes Chinese expansion, there have been claims that the United States has been secretly funding him to counter China. And guess what? Those claims are true. Reports based on U.S. intelligence show that the CIA provided Dalai Lama with a $180,000 yearly stipend for several years starting in 1960s as a part of a large effort to support the Tibetan exile movement during the Cold War. Number 5. Sugar isn't good for you. We all know that sugar is exactly not good for you, but the sugar industry is trying to keep that a secret. In 1967, the Sugar Research Foundation, a lobbying group funded by sugar companies, managed a study that minimized the connection between sugar consumption and heart disease. Corporate sugar conspiracies aren't just a thing of the past. In 2015, Coca-Cola spent millions to fund a study that downplayed the link between sugary sodas and obesity. Number 4. Business plot. This was when a small group of companies actually tried to organize a fascist takeover of the United States. It might sound like the plot of a conspiracy thriller, but it really happened. Senator Prescott Bush, the grandfather of George W. Bush, joined forces with business leaders from Chase Bank, Goodyear, Standard Oil, GM, and the DuPont family. Their aim was to fund a military coup to remove FDR and set up a fascist dictatorship. Their big mistake was asking Marine Corps Major General Smedley Butler to lead the military side of the coup, even though he was a strong supporter of FDR. Butler exposed the plot and stopped it before it could start. Even though they were involved in a treasonous plot, none of the business plotters were ever punished. Smedley Butler deserves thanks for stopping the fascist takeover planning before it could even begin. Number 3. Bayer Pharmaceutical. A strong contender for the worst corporate conspiracy might be Bayer Pharmaceutical Company, especially through one of their troubling subsidiaries, Cutter Biologicals. In the 1980s, Cutter Biologicals began selling blood-clotting machine for hemophiliacs, made from the blood of people without hemophilia. However, for the medicine sent to Latin America and Asia, donors were not properly screened. The result, Cutter Biological ended up selling products that infected 20,000 patients with HIV, and they spent years trying to hide the scandal. Number 2. The climate change conspiracy. When climate change is a major issue today because we're experiencing its effects, ExxonMobil was aware of it as early as in the 1970s due to climate research they funded. Instead of addressing it, they spent millions trying to suppress the information. Their lobbying has confused the issue and slowed down efforts to tackle climate change because it would hurt their profits. This has put millions, if not billions, of lives at risk. Number 1. US is the top country to hire ex-Nazi scientists after World War II. Operation Paperclip started to give the US an edge in technology and science during the Cold War, even if it meant making deals with former Nazis. In reality, it was more like making deals with 1,500 former Nazis who were all granted full amnesty. Their records were wiped clean and new. Nazi-free backgrounds were created for them by joining the Joint Intelligence Objective Agency. This included notorious Nazi scientists like Werner von Braun, Herbertus Stronghold, and Arthur Rudolph. Some truly horrible people escaped punishment, but at least we got the V2 rocket and the moon landing from it. But let's say on the topic of unethical science, one of the most infamous cases of bad medical testing was the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. This involved a conspiracy between the US Public Health Service and the Tuskegee Institute. Around 400 black men were used as unwitting subjects in syphilis studies while being falsely told that they were being treated for their painful condition. In 1978, using weather manipulation technology for military purposes was declared a war crime. This meant that, at least in theory, the CIA would have to abandon their plans to use weather as a weapon. Now, let's look at other CIA weapons that seemed like a wild conspiracy theory but turned out to be frighteningly real. Every year, 805,000 Americans have heart attacks, and many of them are fatal. Heart attacks are a serious issue in the country. But could they also be caused by CIA assassin targeting people? The method: a special heart attack gun. This gun fired a frozen dart with deadly blowfish poison. The dart would then melt inside the body, causing a heart attack and leaving just a small red dot as the only sign of trouble. While this might sound like something from a James Bond movie, Senator Frank Church exposed the real heart attack pistol during a congressional hearing about some of the CIA's darker activities.